The hangar smelled of jet fuel, gun oil, and sweat. Overhead lights buzzed, throwing pale halos across the long table where a map of the river valley was pinned beneath knives, magazines, and folded gloves. 12 men stood around it, each one a Navy SEAL seasoned by years of deployments. Their faces were hard, carved by experience, yet their eyes carried the unmistakable glint of anticipation. Missions were what they lived for. Still, tonight, something felt different. The briefing officer pointed at the map with a laser pen. Your objective is here, Riverside Compound, 2 clicks inland. Intelligence indicates possible insurgent activity, weapons storage, and movement corridors. You'll insert by river, neutralize threats, secure the location. Extraction point is North Ridge, 3 hours after hay hour. The words were crisp, efficient, military. But beneath the clinical language, everyone in the room understood what wasn't being said. The area had swallowed teams before. It wasn't just the insurgents, it was the terrain itself. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Hawley, the team leader, leaned in closer, studying the lines of the river as if the paper might whisper its secrets. The river wound like a serpent through thick jungle, its waters black under moonlight. To outsiders, it looked like a natural highway. To Hawley, it looked like a trap. What do we know about resistance? He asked, voice low and measured. The intel officer hesitated, just long enough to be noticed. Scattered reports of small arms. No heavy weaponry. No sniper presence confirmed. The men exchanged brief glances. No sniper presence confirmed. In their world, that phrase meant nothing. It didn't mean there were none. It meant they didn't know. And in the field, not knowing could kill. Hale's second in command, Petty Officer First Class Ramirez, cracked his knuckles softly. That compound's too quiet. If it's hot, it won't be from small arms. The room grew heavy with unspoken agreement. The SEALs had all learned to trust silence more than words. One by one, they began their pre-mission checks. Magazines were inspected, night vision goggles cleaned and reassembled, silencers attached with precise clicks. The ritual wasn't just preparation. It was a way to still the mind, to take control of what could be controlled. As they worked, the conversation was sparse, almost casual. Someone joked about the chow hall's meatloaf, another about Ramirez's crooked helmet strap. Laughter bubbled up briefly, but it never lasted long. Jokes were armor, thin layers against the reality that some of them might not return. In the corner, Corpsman Ellis, the medic, checked his kit 3 times over. He didn't talk much during prep. His role was different. While the others thought about bullets, Ellis thought about what happened after the bullets found flesh. Every bandage he packed was a silent prayer. Finally, Hawley called the men back to the map. Listen up. We move fast and clean. In and out before they know what hit them. Eyes on the river, it's our lifeline and our vulnerability. Keep your heads on a swivel. No assumptions. We treat this as a hot zone. The men nodded in unison. No one needed speeches. Trust was currency in the SEALs, and Hawley had earned theirs 100 times over. The hangar door opened with a metallic groan, letting in the cool night air. Outside, the river glistened faintly under starlight, winding through the valley like a vein of ink. Helicopters sat waiting, their rotors dormant, hulking shapes against the dark. Boats were already loaded, engines silent, ready for insertion. Ramirez adjusted his night vision goggles and grinned at Hawley. What's the over-under on how bad this gets? Hawley smirked without humor. Bad enough that you'll wish you stayed in the chow hall. The men chuckled, though the sound was thin, nervous. They all felt that gnawing weight in their guts, the instinct honed through years of combat. Something was waiting for them out there. Something they hadn't been told, or couldn't yet see. Inside, Hale replayed the briefing in his mind. No sniper presence confirmed. It echoed like an alarm bell. He trusted his instincts, and his instincts told him they weren't walking into a simple weapon sweep. The insurgents they faced were cunning, patient, and ruthless. If they had a sniper, just one, it could change everything. But he said nothing more. His men needed clarity, not doubt. As they boarded the boats, the night seemed to press closer, wrapping around them like a shroud. The engines hummed to life, barely audible above the river's current. The men settled into silence, rifles across their laps, eyes scanning the dark banks. Every splash of water, every rustle in the trees, sounded louder than it should. The mission clock had started ticking. No one knew it yet, but a lone figure already lay in wait along that river mud-caked, breath-measured, scope-fixed. Hours earlier, he had slipped into the reeds, vanishing into the earth and water as if born from it. His rifle rested steady on its stand, eyes tracking the currents. He wasn't just defending ground. He was the ground. The seals thought they were the hunters. Tonight, they were stepping into the crosshairs of a man who had turned patience into a weapon. And as the boats glided silently into the darkness, the river whispered back the same question that would soon haunt every man on that mission. Where's the shooter? The river swallowed sound. The boats moved like shadows, their engines muffled to little more than a low hum beneath the night's stillness. Moonlight painted the water silver, but the jungle along both banks remained a black wall, dense and impenetrable. The men sat in silence, rifles balanced across their laps, night vision goggles glowing faintly green over hardened faces. Every eye scanned, every ear strained, but the only noises were the gentle slap of the current and the occasional rustle of unseen animals in the underbrush. Chief Marcus Hawley kept his gaze locked forward. He had led missions down rivers before Afghanistan's dry valleys, Africa's swampy channels, South America's thick forests, but tonight, something gnawed at him. The silence wasn't the silence of wilderness. It was the silence of waiting. 2 minutes to insertion, whispered Ramirez from the second boat, voice cutting across the comms with the calm precision of a veteran. Copy, Hawley replied. He looked down at his men. Each one sat coiled like a spring, adrenaline disguised by stillness. These were warriors who had faced the world's most hostile corners, but even they couldn't completely mask the subtle tightening of grips, the shallow quickening of breath. The compound appeared in the distance, a shadowed structure barely visible through the trees, 2 clicks inland from where they'd disembark. No guards patrolled the banks. No sentries lit cigarettes on the rooftops. Too quiet. The boat slid into the muddy bank with barely a splash. The men disembarked in a synchronized flow, boots sinking into the muck as they formed a loose perimeter. Rifles swept the tree line. No movement. No sound. Just the drone of insects. Clear, whispered Ellis, the medic, crouching low near the reeds. They began the trek inland, moving in tactical bounds, each man covering the next. The jungle was thick, the air heavy with the scent of wet earth and rotting vegetation. Vines tugged at their gear, branches scraped at their helmets. For 10 minutes, nothing. Just the rhythmic progress of a well-drilled team. Then, crack. The shot came out of nowhere, splitting the night like lightning. A scream followed, cut short. The point man, Petty Officer Jackson, dropped instantly, body limp before it hit the ground. His rifle clattered on the mud, useless now. Blood pooled fast beneath his helmet. Contact. Contact. Ramirez barked, dropping behind a fallen log. The rest scattered, diving into cover, eyes darting wildly. Where's the shooter? Someone shouted into the comms. No answer. Only the jungle staring back. The teen returned fire instinctively, bursts of suppressed rounds tearing into trees and brush. Muzzle flashes lit the night in staccato bursts, but nothing answered. No second shot. No movement. Only silence. Hawley crawled to Jackson, dragging the limp body behind cover. One look told him it was useless single shot, straight through the head. Instant kill. Hale's jaw clenched, but his voice remained steady. Eyes up. This isn't random. As if to answer, another shot cracked, this time from a different angle. The round struck the dirt inches from Ramirez's boot. Another man flinched as bark exploded near his face. The SEALs unleashed another wave of fire, but the jungle gave nothing back. Thermals up. Hawley barked. A drone lifted into the air, whirring softly as it scanned the treetops and riverbank. On the monitor, only shades of cold green. No heat signatures. No body lying prone with a rifle. Nothing. Negative contact, the drone operator muttered, frustration cutting his voice. It didn't make sense. A sniper couldn't just disappear. Every shot needed a position. Every position left a trace. Yet here, there was nothing, just ghost fire. Where's the shooter? Ramirez hissed, scanning through his scope. His voice carried a rare edge, frustration mixing with unease. Another shot rang out. This one dropped Alice's pack, tearing clean through the medical kit without touching flesh. The precision was surgical. Whoever this sniper was, he wasn't just killing. He was choosing. The team froze. That kind of patience, that kind of control, it wasn't ordinary. Hale's pulse quickened, though his face betrayed nothing. He remembered the briefing. No sniper presence confirmed. The words rattled in his head like a warning too late. The SEALs began to adapt, shifting tactics. 2 men laid down suppressive fire, while others bounded forward, closing gaps and searching for angles. Still, the sniper stayed invisible, each shot perfectly timed to remind them he controlled the field. Minutes stretched like hours. Every rustle of leaves, every ripple on the water could be death. The sniper wasn't just killing their men, he was killing their confidence. Hawley pressed his radio. Command, we're under precision fire. Shooter unknown. Thermal negative. Request satellite sweep. Static. Then a curt reply. Copy. Sweep in progress. Stay mobile. Easy for them to say, Hawley thought bitterly. From the safety of their air-conditioned command centers, everything sounded simple. But here, in the black jaws of the river, the reality was different. They weren't hunting anymore. They were being hunted. Another shot split the night. This time it grazed Ramirez's helmet, spinning him into the mud. He cursed, yanking it off to reveal a shallow groove where the bullet had kissed steel. Too close. Jesus, Ramirez breathed, eyes wide for the first time in years. That son of a bitch is everywhere. Hawley scanned the river, the trees, the banks. He didn't want to admit it aloud, but his gut whispered the truth. The sniper wasn't in the trees. He wasn't on the ridge. He was in the river. The thought chilled him. A man submerged, camouflaged, hidden in reeds and mud, patient, waiting, using the river as both shield and weapon. It explained the silence, the angles, the vanishing act after every shot. But Hawley kept the theory to himself. Saying it aloud would plant fear, and fear was as deadly as any bullet. Instead, he called out calmly, "Stay tight. Move in pairs." We push forward, controlled. The SEALs nodded, regaining discipline. They shifted again, moving slowly, carefully, weapons trained. But inside, the seed of dread had been planted. Somewhere in the black water, unseen eyes watched. The sniper was waiting for the perfect moment. And every man on that riverbank knew the next crack of his rifle could be theirs. The night had changed. It wasn't the jungle anymore, not the river, not the compound in the distance. It was a battlefield owned by a single man. The SEALs knew it, even if they didn't want to admit it out loud. Every breath they took, every cautious step forward, was haunted by one thought: the shooter sees us. The worst part was the silence between the shots. Each crack of the rifle was devastating, but the waiting was worse. Seconds stretched, then minutes, the jungle's buzzing insects mocking them with their casual chorus. The sniper was patient, disciplined. He didn't waste bullets. He didn't miss. And he never revealed himself. Halle crouched low, trying to force logic into a situation that defied it. He replayed the shots in his mind. The angles, the timing, the precision. They weren't dealing with an average insurgent with a rusty rifle. This was someone trained, someone who knew how SEALs moved, how they thought. A professional predator. "Where's the shooter?" Ramirez hissed again, eyes darting through his scope. His tone was sharper now, brittle with frustration. No one answered. Another round tore through the foliage. It wasn't a kill shot this time, deliberate. The bullet clipped the corner of a radio pack, sending sparks into the dark. Whoever this sniper was, he wasn't just attacking. He was controlling, dictating their pace, hurting them. "God damn it," muttered Ellis, the medic, clutching the damaged pack. "He's toying with us." Hale's jaw tightened. Ellis was right. A sniper who only killed did his job. A sniper who chose when not to kill, who grazed. Helmets, shredded equipment, dropped men with single perfect shots. It was someone who played a bigger game. "Hold fire," Halle ordered, raising a fist. The gunfire stopped, the jungle swallowing the team's noise. The SEALs froze, every muscle tense. For a moment, it felt like maybe the ghost had vanished. Maybe the sniper had repositioned or withdrawn. Hope flickered, fragile. Then came another shot. It punched clean through the canteen strapped to Ramirez's side, water spilling into the mud. Ramirez froze, staring down at the hole. Inches to the left, and it would have been his hip. Inches higher, his heart. Silence followed, heavy and mocking. The sniper was telling them, "I could have killed you. I chose not to." Fear crept in like a cold mist. These men were warriors, elite, disciplined, hardened by countless battles. But they were human. And humans are not built to fight what they cannot see. The drone still buzzed overhead, its infrared sweep painting the jungle in green hues. Nothing. No heat signatures. No outlines of a man prone in the reeds. The shooter was invisible, even to technology. "Negative visuals," the operator reported, voice trembling despite his training. Ramirez slammed a fist into the mud. "That's impossible. Nobody disappears like this." Hai looked back at him. His expression was grim, controlled, but inside, he felt the same disbelief. Except he knew better than to call it impossible. He knew men who could make themselves disappear, men who trained to use patience as camouflage, men who let the earth swallow them whole. Whoever this was, he wasn't ordinary. "Not impossible," Halle muttered. "Just rare." The team shifted, uneasy. That single word, rare, was enough. It meant they weren't facing luck or coincidence. They were facing skill. And skill this sharp meant danger they hadn't prepared for. The sniper fired again, a clean crack that took out their forward motion sensor. One round, equipment gone, no alarms, no warning systems. Just eyes and instincts now. The SEALs responded with fury, spraying suppressive fire across the reeds, the tree line, the riverbank. Tracers lit the night in a storm of light. But when the smoke cleared, there was nothing. No body, no sound, no proof. Ellis whispered, "He's not in the trees." Heads turned toward him. Ellis swallowed hard. "Think about it. The angles, the sound. He's lower, close to the waterline." Halle felt the realization hit. He'd Suspected it since the first kill, but now the pieces clicked together. The river, the mud, the reeds. The sniper wasn't perched high above them. He was down low, buried where no drone could see, where no eye would think to look. He was part of the river, and that made him nearly unstoppable. Eyes on the bank, Halle ordered, his voice calm but commanding. Check the reeds. Watch the water. The seals adjusted, scope sweeping the black surface of the river. It shimmered under moonlight, innocent and silent. No movement, no figure, no muzzle flash, just water. Then another shot came, not at them this time, but past them, striking a tree behind. A warning, a reminder, I'm still here. Ramirez growled under his breath, frustration boiling. We can't fight a ghost, Chief. Hale's eyes stayed locked on the river. Then we don't fight him. We outlast him. But even as he said it, he wasn't sure. This man wasn't rushing. He wasn't panicking. He was patient, infinitely patient. And patience like that could bleed them dry. Minutes turned into hours. The sniper's shots came sporadically, never predictable, never wasteful. He would fire once, disappear, then wait until the SEALs' nerves began to settle before firing again. He was stretching their endurance, fraying their discipline, breaking them piece by piece. By the time the third hour bled into the fourth, sweat slicked their bodies beneath the night's chill. Every man jumped at shadows, flinched at whispers of wind through leaves. The sniper didn't need to kill them all. He just needed to keep them locked in his grip until their mission fell apart. Halle crouched against a tree, scanning the black water. He could almost feel the man's eyes on him, steady and cold through the scope. Somewhere out there, a rifle lay nestled in the reeds. Somewhere out there, a man who breathed slower than the river itself had chosen them as prey. And as the night dragged on, one question repeated in every SEAL's mind, whispered like a curse through their combs. Where's the shooter? The river was his ally. For hours, the sniper lay half-submerged in its muddy skin, reeds brushing against his helmet, insects crawling freely over his arms. He didn't flinch. He didn't swat. He didn't move. To move was to reveal, and revealing meant death. The current was gentle, almost non-existent, and his body drifted with it just enough to appear like nothing more than floating debris. The camouflage was more than fabric. It was mud smeared across his face, reeds woven into the straps of his gear, a gleam of metal dulled with ash and grease. He had become part of the riverbank, indistinguishable from the thousands of shapes along the water's edge. Through the scope of his rifle, the world was narrowed to a single green circle of light. Every breath was measured, every heartbeat timed to the rhythm of the current. The SEALs thought they were hunting insurgents. Instead, they had wandered into his kill zone. He had been here long before they arrived. Days, in fact. He had scouted the terrain, studied the currents, tracked the wind. He knew where the river curved just enough to carry sound differently, where the reeds offered thick concealment, where the mud swallowed footprints. When the order came to protect the compound, he didn't wait inside walls. He came to the water, where he could control everything. Patience had always been his greatest weapon. From the first shot, the one that dropped the point man cleanly, he felt the familiar calm settle over him. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't adrenaline. It was clarity. His mind sharpened, every sense tuned to the smallest detail. The flicker of movement in shadows, the faint scrape of metal on stone, the way a soldier shifted his weight when fear crept in. The SEALs were good. He respected that. They moved with precision, covered each other flawlessly, adapted fast. But even the best carried patterns. Even the best revealed themselves under pressure. His job wasn't just to shoot them. It was to study them, to learn them, to own them. So he chose his shots carefully. Not too many. Never wasteful. Each bullet had a purpose. The first killed, establishing dominance. The second grazed, showing control. The third destroyed equipment, stripping them of comfort. And the others, those carefully placed near misses or messages. I see you. I choose not to kill you. But I can, anytime I want. It was psychological warfare. And he knew it was working. Through his scope, he watched them break formation. One shouted, another cursed, another punched the ground. Their discipline held, but barely. Their commander, the one they called Holly, was steady, sharp, but even through the distance of the scope, the sniper could see the weight in the man's shoulders. He was carrying more than his gear. He was carrying the burden of men who looked to him for survival. That, too, could be exploited. The sniper shifted slightly, a motion so slow it might have taken 10 minutes for his body to slide an inch deeper into the mud. His breathing never changed. His crosshairs moved deliberately, rushing over targets one by one. He could kill them all, but killing wasn't the mission. His mission was time. Hold them, pin them, keep them from reaching the convoy's escape route. He knew the insurgent trucks were already moving deeper inland, loaded with supplies, weapons, and men. Without him, the SEALs would overrun the compound, cut off the retreat, and dismantle everything. With him here, the Americans couldn't move forward. Every bullet he fired was another mile bought for the convoy. That was enough. He thought briefly of the men in those trucks, ragged fighters, with cheap rifles and mismatched uniforms. They weren't like him. They weren't disciplined or precise. But they were his countrymen, and his task was to protect them. That was all he needed to know. His finger rested lightly on the trigger, not pressing, just feeling the metal, a familiar comfort. He had trained his body so well that the act of firing wasn't even conscious anymore. It was instinct, as natural as breathing. His mind drifted back briefly to where he'd learned this patience. Long days on mountainsides with nothing but wind for company. Nights lying in frozen snow, waiting for a single target who might never come. He had been taught that the rifle wasn't the weapon, the mind was. The rifle was just the extension. The true weapon was silence, discipline, time. He had carried that lesson here, to this river. Through the scope, he saw one of the SEALs move slightly wrong, too fast, too exposed. His crosshairs locked onto the man's temple. He could have ended him. But instead, he shifted the scope, placing the shot inches away. He squeezed the trigger. A crack split the night. Arc exploded near the soldier's head, showering him in splinters. The man flinched hard, ducking, cursing. The sniper smiled faintly under the mud. Not triumph. Not cruelty. Satisfaction. He had reminded them of his power. Time stretched. The river carried whispers of their panic-hushed voices over combs, the shuffle of boots in the mud. They asked the same question over and over. Where's the shooter? They would never find him. Not here. Because he wasn't just in the river. He was the river. Hours passed. The SEALs tried everything: suppressive fire, smoke, drones, flanking maneuvers. But he adapted, always staying one step ahead. The reeds shielded him, the mud disguised him, the water cooled his body enough to trick thermal scans. Every tactic they threw at him crumbled against patience. Patience was eternal. Bullets ran out. Batteries drained. Muscles cramped. But patience? Patience was infinite. The sniper let his breathing slow again. Through his scope, he saw Halle scanning the water, eyes narrowed. For a moment, their gazes almost met across the distance, predator recognizing predator. Halle suspected the truth. That much was clear. But suspicion wasn't enough. He couldn't fire at water and hope to win. The sniper blinked slowly, calmly. He would let Hale figure it out. Because by the time the seals acted, it would be too late. In the distance, faint headlights glowed through the trees. The convoy was almost gone. His mission was almost complete. He breathed once, twice, 3 times, and whispered a silent thought to himself, not in words, but in instinct. 1 man against many. 1 rifle against a platoon. Time against time. Then he sank slightly deeper into the mud, vanishing once more, as though the river itself had swallowed him whole. And on the far bank, the SEALs crouched in restless silence, still asking the question he had turned into a weapon. Where's the shooter? The night felt endless. Commander Hale crouched low behind a mound of earth, his eyes sweeping the darkened riverbank. Hours had passed, but the sniper's grip on the battlefield hadn't loosened. Every time his men shifted position, a bullet cracked close enough to remind them they were prey. Not one wasted shot. Not one mistake. "Sir," whispered Petty Officer Ramirez, his voice steady but edged with fatigue. "We're burning daylight here. Convoy's gotta be halfway to the border by now." Hale didn't answer right away. He studied the river, the reeds, the faint ripples moving like restless breath across the water surface. He knew Ramirez was right. They were running out of time. But rushing meant exposing themselves, and exposing themselves meant more casualties. Patience was supposed to be their weapon. Tonight, patience belonged to someone else. He clicked his comms. Eyes on water. No assumptions. He's in there. I want movement, reflections, anything. He's turning the river into cover, and that's how he's staying ahead of us. Copy, came the hushed replies. Hale leaned back against the dirt mound, his jaw tight. He'd seen shooters like this before, ghosts who knew how to blend with the earth. Ghosts who believed the rifle made them gods. But this one was different. His control was terrifying. He wasn't just firing to kill. He was firing to control. And Hale couldn't shake the sense that the sniper respected them, just enough to toy with them. A new shot cracked through the air, shattering a branch above Hale's head. Wood chips rained down over him. His men cursed, ducking lower. Hale didn't move. His eyes stayed on the river. The shot wasn't meant to kill. It was meant to remind him that every second mattered. His comms crackled. "Sir, drones are blind." He's masking himself from thermal. Either water's cooling his signature, or he's buried in mud. Can't tell. Hale's mind ran through scenarios, smoke, worthless against a shooter who could wait until it cleared. Suppression fire? They'd burn ammo and hit nothing but reeds. Flanking? The sniper had already predicted every maneuver. They had proof in the precision of his shots. This wasn't a battle of firepower. This was a battle of wits. He closed his eyes briefly, forcing his breathing into rhythm. He thought back to training lessons drilled into him until they lived in his blood. Find the weakness. The ghost you fear is still human. Everyone makes mistakes. Force him to reveal his hand. Hale's eyes snapped open. A plan started to form. Dangerous, reckless, but the kind of gamble SEALs were built to take. He turned to Ramirez. "We're gonna bait him." Ramirez's eyebrows shot up. "Sir?" "Decoys, movement, something he can't ignore. We pull his attention, make him commit. Once he takes the shot, we triangulate. Sir, with respect, he's not missing. If he commits, someone's not walking away." Hale's gaze hardened. "That's the risk. But this standoff doesn't break unless we break it." Silence pressed in. The men exchanged glances, some wary, some grim, some with the hollow acceptance that came from years of combat. Finally, Ramirez nodded. "Then let's make it count." The plan went into motion. 2 SEALs carefully rigged their packs with broken branches, helmets, and tarps, fashioning crude silhouettes of crouched soldiers. Using fishing line from their kits, They set the dummies to drag just above the riverbank, mimicking cautious movement. Every adjustment was deliberate. The sniper had to believe it. Hale positioned himself at the center, eyes locked on the scope of his suppressed rifle. Around him, his men crouched low, forming a triangle of angles that could converge on a single origin point once the sniper fired. The river was silent. Too silent. Even the insects seemed to have gone mute, as if the jungle itself was waiting. "On three," Hale whispered. 1, 2, 3. The dummies shifted forward, branches scraping softly against the mud. To an untrained eye, the movement looked natural. Two men, creeping low, cautious but exposed. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, like thunder splitting the world, a shot ripped through the air. One of the decoy's helmets exploded into fragments, spinning into the water. The seals froze, adrenaline surging. Hale's ears caught it instantly. The angle, the delay, the faint echo bouncing back. His instincts screamed the origin point. "Mark it." Hale snapped. 3 rifles swung in unison, scopes locking on the patch of reeds halfway down the riverbank. Muzzle flashes erupted, spitting fire into the night. The jungle lit up with controlled chaos suppression fire, hammering the reeds, splinters flying, mud erupting. For the first time, Hale saw it. The faintest ripple of movement, a shadow slipping from one patch of reeds to another. The sniper was real, tangible, vulnerable. Contact confirmed. Ramirez shouted, "Keep him pinned." Hale roared back. But even as they unleashed their fury, a cold thought wormed its way into Hale's mind. He let us see him. A second shot cracked, cleaner than the first. One of his men, Stevens, jerked violently, dropping into the mud with blood pouring from his shoulder. The sniper had used their moment of triumph against them. "Medic!" Hale barked. Ramirez slid to Stevens' side, working quickly. Hale's jaw clenched. One bait, one reveal, one wounded man. The sniper was still in control. Minutes dragged on. The firefight dwindled to silence once more. The reeds swayed as if mocking them. The sniper had vanished again, melted back into the river. Hale crouched low, scanning the water. His heart pounded, but his mind was razor sharp. He couldn't let the fear creep in. "He's bleeding time, sir," Ramirez said grimly. "Convoy's gone if it isn't already." Hale nodded slowly. He knew it. They all knew it. But there was still one card to play. He clicked his combs, his voice a low growl. "We go forward. Inch by inch. Tight formation. Eyes on the reeds. No hesitation." "Sir, we're walking straight into him," one SEAL said. "Exactly," Hale replied. "That's what he won't expect. He wants us pinned, waiting. We take the fight to him." The men adjusted their grips, their movements synchronized like gears in a machine. Hale took point, his rifle raised, every sense tuned to the river. The sniper was still out there, watching, waiting, but Hale had made a decision. He would drag the ghost out of the water, even if it meant walking into the jaws of death. As they advanced, every step felt heavier than the last. The reeds loomed ahead, whispering secrets. Somewhere within, the hunter's patience lingered, the cold eye behind the scope, the finger resting lightly on the trigger. The standoff wasn't broken yet, but Hale intended to shatter it before the river swallowed another man whole. The reeds swayed like a living wall, whispering as the night wind slipped through them. Commander Hale studied the shadows ahead, every instinct screaming that the sniper was still there watching, waiting. "Forward, slow," Hale ordered. His voice was barely more than breath, but his men heard him. They advanced in tight formation, rifles up, boots sinking softly into the mud. Every splash of water seemed loud enough to betray their position. Somewhere out there, hidden in the reeds, lay the ghost who had haunted them for hours. Ramirez moved at Hale's flank, his face set, eyes locked on the waterline. Stevens, wounded but bandaged, stayed behind with 2 men providing rear security. That left 6 pushing into the danger zone. 6 against 1, but Hale knew the balance wasn't in their favor. The sniper wasn't fighting with numbers. He was fighting with patience. The first trap came quickly. As Hale eased forward, his boot struck something taut. He froze. His eyes flicked down thin fishing line, stretched barely above the mud, almost invisible. "Tripwire," he hissed. Ramirez crouched, careful hands tracing the line to a crude device buried under the muck, a fragmentation grenade rigged to detonate. Hale's gut tightened. The sniper hadn't just chosen the river as cover. He had prepared it as a battlefield. "Disarm?" Ramirez asked. Hale shook his head. "Mark it. Step over. He wants us slowed down. Don't give him the time." They moved on, weaving around the deadly surprise, nerves sharpened by the knowledge that more traps likely waited ahead. Every reed they brushed, every ripple of water, felt like a potential betrayal. The sniper watched them through his scope, silent as stone. He had seen Hull spot the tripwire. Expected it, even. He had left it not to kill, but to warn another whisper that this was his ground. They would advance anyway. Soldiers always did. But each step forward was slower, each movement more cautious. That was enough. Patience. Always patience. A burst of movement to the right jolted Hale's men. A shadow flickered in the reeds. Instinctively, one seal fired, muzzle flash lighting the night. Bullets tore through vegetation, shredding leaves and stalks. But there was no cry of pain, no body falling. Just silence. "False contact," Hale growled. His pulse thundered in his ears. The sniper was testing their nerves, using the reeds and water to create illusions. Then another shot cracked. A single round, precise. It clipped the radio antenna of the man at the rear, snapping it clean. Sparks spat into the mud. The seal dove for cover, cursing. Hale clenched his teeth. Not a killing shot. Another reminder. I control what you see. I control what you lose. They pressed deeper. The reeds thickened, rising above their heads, turning the world claustrophobic. Vision narrowed defeat in front of them. Sound became their only guide boots squelching, water lapping, the faint hum of insects returning to life. Hale raised a clenched fist, halting the formation. Something felt wrong. The river was too quiet again. "Eyes up," Hale whispered. The warning came a second too late. A shot cracked from behind them. One seal staggered, spinning into the mud, blood blossoming from his thigh. Shouts erupted. The formation scrambled for cover, firing wildly into the reeds. "Where the hell?" Ramirez snarled, scanning. Hale's mind raced. The sniper had circled them. No, he hadn't moved at all. He had let them advance past him. While they hunted forward, he had waited, silent, letting them walk straight into his shadow. "Back positions. Cover Stevens and the rear." Hale barked. Bullets ripped the reeds as his men fired suppressive bursts, the night flashing with muzzle fire. But Hale knew what the sniper was doing, bleeding them, one man at a time, turning their strength into panic. Pinned in the reeds, Hale pressed his chest to the mud, trying to think past the adrenaline. Their current tactics weren't working. The sniper thrived in their caution, feeding on their hesitation. Flip the board, Hale thought. Don't play his game. Force him to play ours. "Ramirez," he whispered. "Smoke." Ramirez's hand went to his belt, pulling 2 smoke grenades. He yanked the pins and rolled them ahead. Thick clouds hissed into the reeds, spreading into a white wall. The sniper's scope filled with fog. He exhaled slowly, his vision stolen. Clever move. The Americans weren't trying to see him. They were trying to deny him. He adjusted, shifting position by inches, relying on sound instead of sight. He would wait. Patience never failed. Inside the smoke, the SEALs advanced fast, abandoning caution for momentum. The cover was temporary, but it was theirs. Halle pushed forward, counting steps, trusting his compass bearings. His heart pounded with the awareness that any second, the fog could clear and leave them exposed. The reeds parted a hidden opening in the wall of green. Beyond it, the river widened into a stagnant pool, moonlight gleaming faintly on its surface. "Clear zone," Ramirez whispered. Hale's instincts screamed again. Too open, too quiet. And then the sniper fired. The shot cut through the smoke like lightning, slamming into the ground inches from Hale's hand. Mud splashed his face. Contact! The SEALs burst from the reeds, rifles blazing. Bullets tore into the water, churning waves of spray. Halle spotted it a ripple across the far bank, subtle but telling. He swung his rifle, firing 3 sharp bursts. For the first time, he thought he saw a figure, low in the mud, reeds woven into his gear. A ghost made real. But as quickly as he saw it, the sniper vanished again, sliding deeper into the water like a crocodile retreating to its swamp. "Did we hit him?" Ramirez gasped. Hall didn't answer. His gut told him no. They had flushed him, maybe grazed him, but not ended him. The men regrouped in the clearing, their chests heaving, nerves frayed. The smoke thinned, drifting across the water. The silence pressed back in, heavier than before. "We're chasing shadows, sir," one SEAL muttered, exhaustion bleeding into his voice. "No," Halle said firmly, eyes locked on the dark surface of the river. "We're chasing a man. And men bleed. Men break. We just have to make him show us where." The words steadied his men, but deep down, Halle knew the truth. The sniper had led them deeper into his world, stripping them of time, strength, and certainty. And yet, retreat wasn't an option. The convoy might already be gone, but Halle couldn't let the sniper walk away untouched. If this ghost lived to fight another day, more men would die under his scope. Hale's jaw set. "We end this tonight." The river lapped softly against the bank, as if mocking him. Somewhere within its shadows, the hunter waited, patient as ever. And Halle knew the final confrontation was coming soon. The night pressed heavier than armor. Commander Howell crouched at the edge of the clearing, his men arrayed around him like tired wolves. They were bleeding time, bleeding strength, bleeding patience. The sniper still hadn't broken. If anything, the longer this dragged on, the stronger he seemed. Hale's hand gripped his rifle tighter. He'd made his decision back in the reeds. This ended tonight. "Ramirez," he whispered. "Flank left, circle wide. I want pressure from both sides." "Copy." Ramirez slipped off, 2 men ghosting behind him into the reeds. Their silhouettes vanished into the tangle of shadows. Halle signaled the rest forward. 6 men left, moving slow, rifles up, eyes cutting every corner. Their boots sank in the muck, the water rising shin-deep as they advanced. The reeds whispered like secrets being shared just out of earshot. The sniper was out there. Halle could feel it. That prickling between the shoulder blades, that certainty born of too many nights under hostile eyes. The hunter was watching. Always watching. The sniper lay deeper in the mud now, his body coated in river filth, reeds woven into his helmet like a crown of ghosts. His chest rose in shallow, controlled breaths. He had waited so long, he no longer felt the cold seep into his bones. The river was part of him. Through his scope, he tracked Hale's unit. He admired their persistence. Most soldiers would have pulled back by now. But Hale pushed forward, defiant, clever. A worthy opponent. The convoy was safe now. His mission was complete. He could leave. He could slip away into the water and vanish forever. But something inside him refused. Pride, maybe. Or the quiet voice that said the game wasn't finished until the board was cleared. So he stayed. The reeds rustled faintly to Hale's left. His muscles coiled, finger brushing the trigger. Then a muffled thump Ramirez's suppressed rifle. A shape crumpled in the shadows. Hale's chest tightened. They had hit something. Contact left, Ramirez's voice whispered through gums. But before Hale could answer, a shot cracked from the opposite bank. One of Ramirez's men screamed, clutching his neck as he fell. Blood sprayed across the reeds. The radio hissed with panicked calls. The sniper had read their flanking move perfectly. Stay focused. Hale barked. Push forward. They surged into the reeds, firing controlled bursts. The air turned into chaos gunfire, snapping, men shouting, reeds shredding into confetti. The sniper fired again, precise, surgical. Another SEAL dropped, a hole punched clean through his vest. Hale's fury built with every shot. This wasn't combat, it was dissection. The sniper wasn't fighting them. He was tearing them apart. And then, finally, Hale caught it. The faintest flicker of muzzle flash in the reeds across the pool. His instincts screamed there. He raised his rifle, sighted in, and fired. Mud erupted where the shot landed. A shadow shifted, a body sliding low. Hale fired again, his men joining, bullets ripping through the water and vegetation. A runt carried across the river. Faint, but real. Hit confirmed. Ramirez's voice barked. The sniper slid deeper into the mud, pain searing his side. The round had grazed his ribs, burning like fire. His hands stayed steady, though, his scope locked onto Hale. He could still end this. He could still win. But for the first time, the hunter felt the weight of blood loss creeping in. His patience had cost him flesh. The SEALs pressed forward, firing relentlessly. Hale led from the front, cutting through reeds, closing the distance. His mind burned with one thought. End the ghost before the ghost ended them. A burst of gunfire tore through the reeds ahead. Hale dove flat as bullets shredded the air above him. Mud splattered his face. When he looked up, the sniper was there. Not just a shadow, not just a ripple, but a man. Rising from the river like something born from it, his rifle braced, his eyes cold behind streaks of mud. The hunter had shown himself. Contact front. Hale roared. The world exploded. Gunfire cracked in a storm, muzzle flashes tearing through the night. The SEALs unleashed everything they had, cutting into the reeds where the sniper stood. Water erupted, mud sprayed, vegetation ripped apart. But the sniper moved like a ghost, slipping between reeds, returning fire with terrifying precision. One SEAL went down, chest armor shattered. Another caught a bullet in his leg, collapsing with a scream. Hale advanced through the storm, firing in bursts, his voice a constant anchor to his men. Push, push. Don't stop. The sniper fired again, narrowly missing Hale's head. The commander hit the mud, rolled, and returned fire. Their eyes locked across the chaos predator and predator, no longer separated by distance, but face to face in the jaws of war. Ramirez reappeared on the flank, his team firing hard. The sniper turned, adjusting faster than thought. He fired once Ramirez's man dropped instantly. Fired again, another SEAL spun into the mud. But Ramirez kept moving, rage carved into his face. You're mine, ghost, he bellowed, unleashing a furious burst. The sniper ducked, a bullet grazing his arm, ripping through muscle. Pain flared, but his hand stayed steady. He fired back, his shot tearing Ramirez's rifle clean out of his grip. For the first time, the fight was closing into brutal proximity. Hale surged forward, splashing into the water, mud sucking at his boots. The sniper rose from the reeds, rifle braced. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to two men, their weapons aimed, their wills colliding. They fired at the same time. The shots cracked like thunder, echoing across the river. Hale felt heat whip past his ear. The sniper staggered, clutching his side where Hale's bullet had torn through flesh. Now, Hale roared. His men surged forward, overwhelming fire cutting into the reeds. The sniper stumbled back, his body half submerged, water turning dark around him. But still, impossibly, he raised his rifle. Still he fought. Two more SEALs fired, their rounds slamming into his shoulder, his leg. The hunter collapsed into the mud, his rifle slipping from his hands. The river carried the blood away in red streams. Silence fell, broken only by the heavy breathing of men who had given everything. Hale stood knee-deep in the water, rifle still aimed, chest heaving. The reeds swayed gently, no longer hiding a ghost, but a man wounded, broken, mortal. Ramirez stumbled to Hale's side, blood on his arm, fury still burning in his eyes. "Is it over?" Hale didn't answer. He stared at the figure slumped in the mud, watching to see if the ghost would rise again. The river rippled softly, carrying the night onward. For the first time, Hale felt the standoff shifting. The hunter was no longer untouchable. The ghost was bleeding. But the fight wasn't finished. Not yet. The river was quiet, but it wasn't peace. Commander Hale kneeled in the mud, rifle still raised, eyes locked on the figure slumped against the reeds. The sniper's chest rose unevenly, blood soaking through his camouflaged uniform, mixing with the mud and water. He was alive, but barely. Hale's team moved cautiously, boots sinking into the slick bank. Every step could trigger another shot, but the enemy no longer had the energy to raise the rifle. Still, Hale knew better than to assume victory. "Check fire," he whispered. The men lowered weapons slightly, though fingers remained tight on triggers. Ramirez approached the sniper first, scanning for traps. The man's eyes flickered open, revealing steel-gray pupils that had haunted Hale's every thought since the river insertion. Pain contorted his face, but the predator's calm remained. Even wounded, the sniper's mind was calculating, patient. "You're done," Ramirez said through gritted teeth, standing over him. The sniper's lips twitched, almost a smile, almost a challenge. He didn't respond. Silence was his weapon now. Hale stepped forward, rifle lowered but ready, inspecting the man carefully. He was real, human, mortal. The ghost was no longer a legend whispered in fear. He was flesh and blood, bleeding into the river he had once mastered. The SEALs moved to secure him. Stevens helped drag the sniper out of the water, careful of the spikes and mud that could conceal hidden traps. Every man's heart pounded in adrenaline and exhaustion. Hours of patience, fear, and precision had culminated here. Yet even in the sniper's weakened state, there was defiance in his posture. Hale saw it immediately, the same defiance that had turned the river into a weapon, that had made men flinch at shadows and question every movement. Hale whispered, "You had us dancing all night?" The sniper's eyes flicked to Hale, a faint acknowledgement. No words, just the weight of history, of skill, and of one human forcing another to respect him. Medical checks were quick, but thorough. Ellis patched what he could, stabilizing the sniper enough for transport. The riverbank was now littered with the remnants of the battle. Shattered reeds, spent rounds, blood-soaked mud. Hale surveyed it all, trying to internalize the cost. 3 men down, wounded, shaken, but alive. The sniper, dangerous, brilliant, human, was in their hands. As the team prepared to extract, Hale's mind ran through the mission's lessons. Fear was real, but control mattered more. Patience was deadly, but even the patient could be outmaneuvered with the right blend of timing and courage. The sniper, dragged to his feet by Stevens and Ramirez, moved reluctantly. He stumbled once, but Hale noted the calculated effort in every step. Even now, he was a soldier, disciplined, precise. Hale's voice broke the silence. "You're lucky. This could have been the river's end." The sniper only looked forward, silent. Hale recognized the unspoken truth. A soldier doesn't brag. A soldier survives or dies. Extraction came swiftly. The riverboat slid into the bank, engines muffled. Hale's men carried the wounded SEALs and the sniper aboard. The night still pressed in, dark and heavy, but the tension eased slightly with every splash of the oars. Hale remained alert, watching the water, watching the banks. For 12 hours, the river had been a theater of life and death, and though the battle was over, the memory would remain. The sniper, seated at the back of the boat, remained silent. Hale's gaze met his. No fear, no apology. Only recognition, the acknowledgement that they had fought each other to the limit. And Hale understood something crucial. Respect had been earned on both sides, blood written into the reeds in mud as testimony. As they reached the extraction point, Hale finally allowed himself a long exhale. The wounded were safe, the sniper was captured, and the convoy had reached its destination intact. But the story of the river, of the unseen hunter who had forced even elite warriors to question every step, would linger. Back on solid ground, Hale called in the final report. He detailed the enemy's tactics, his patience, the near-perfect execution. Superiors would read the report and marvel, but no words could truly capture the fear, the tension, and the brilliance of the sniper. Hale turned to Ramirez. "He's a professional," he said quietly. "Maybe the best we've seen." Ramirez nodded. "We got him. But that river, it won't forget him." "Neither will we." The sniper was escorted to a waiting vehicle. Even in defeat, he walked with dignity, eyes forward, silent, calculating. Hale couldn't help but admire the precision, the calm, the deadly patience that had made the river his kingdom for so long. Hale watched the vehicle disappear into the night, and the SEALs slowly regrouped. Mud-caked boots, wet uniforms, adrenaline still thrumming but alive. Every man carried the memory of fear, the weight of strategy, and the reminder that even in elite forces, a single mind could dominate the battlefield. Ellis came to Hale's side. "Think he'll survive?" he asked softly. Hale shook his head slowly. "Physically, maybe. Mentally, he'll never be the same." "Neither will we." A silence fell over the men, heavy but respectful. They had faced the ghost of the river and lived. Every lesson, every fear, every shot, it would remain a story told long after. Hale finally allowed himself to sit, chest heaving, mind replaying the night in vivid, horrifying clarity. He had led his men, made the hard choices, and survived. But he also understood that mastery, patience, and precision, even in an enemy, deserved respect. The river flowed on, indifferent, carrying away the blood, the mud, and the echoes of the battle. And somewhere in the dark, the ghost of the sniper, broken, bleeding, human, would remember that night as clearly as Hale did. It was a confrontation neither side would ever forget.